right, guys, welcome back to the Independent Investor Channel. Happy Mother's Day to everybody out there. I don't know what you guys bought your mothers out there, flowers, candy, etc. I actually bought my spouse 100 shares of Boeing, okay? Now, we are going to establish this position as of now, and we're going to track this position going forward. I'm going to jump in and show you what I saw in this company. Now, I want to premise this video. I want to make sure that each and every one of you guys, as investors, if you're a new investor, all right, you want to take this as entertainment only. I want you to make sure that you're doing your own research on particular investments of your choice. This is for my subscriber base. If you're new to the channel, I want you to understand the context surrounding why I entered into this stock trade. And I've basically told my spouse it is a gift. If it ends up paying off, all the profits will be hers. That's not why I do it. I do it for the trade. All right. And so the investment is a long investment. This is the 5th time that I have bought Boeing over the last couple months. I have 12 shares long within my Roth IRA account. I'm very recessed in those. I'm totally fine. I believe wholeheartedly in the company that they'll come back. We're going to jump into a few metrics a little bit in the reports function of my account. So you're going to want to stand by and understand what it is that I looked at with Boeing specifically. This is a question that is swirling around the investment arena right now with a lot of flux in the stock market, a lot of volatility going on right now. And make no mistake about it, this will be an inflection in our history where we look back on this and we ask ourselves, should I have invested in this company now? All right. So without further ado, I'm going to drop you in and we're going to look at what I looked at in Boeing to justify this Mother's Day present for my spouse. Thank you so much. All right, guys. So this will be one of a series of reports that I drop you into. This is typically, I go through a series of deliberation when I'm doing fundamental analysis. This provides some general framework for giving me some insights on a particular company. Obviously, I don't have all of the background memorized on every stock that I've ever invested in, nor do I expect that investors are going to have that level of insight on every single one of their companies. But you do want to refresh, certainly. And when you want to engage and dive a little bit deeper into what a company brings to the table, what their historical precedence is, you want to make sure that you're identifying those websites that provide you that good transparency and visibility into the company's financials, the company's historical payout ratios, giving you some level of context about where the company is now and what is forecasted into the future. So I just want to highlight a couple things that I take out of this report. I'll take different things from this report, but it usually gives a pretty good synopsis on the company here at the top. We're not going to cover that. Most of you guys know Boeing is in industrials here. It's currently yielding 0. They did suspend the dividend on March 20th, 2020. So that can just kind of remind you how long we've gone here since the company looked to move on and preserve capital by suspending the dividend. They did absolutely the right thing, but valuation and earnings here trading at a relatively higher PEGI ratio, price to earnings growth year over year at 2.2x. Usually we want to see that below 1, honestly, if we're going to enter into a stock based on its price to its growth year over year. The problem with that is I'm looking back at the year 2018, where the earnings per share were about $16. Now going forward, 19, that's when we started the debacle of the accidents and unfortunate accidents from Boeing, and then they just got clobbered into 2020 with the obvious pandemic that is circling around. So not measurable here for the price to earnings and the price to earnings to the growth rate over the next couple years. Obviously, that's been cut to 0 or even into the negative as Boeing does take on some debt. What is the takeaway here is how amazing this company is trading at 8.7 PE going forward, but the PEGI, you're going to have to pay up for the stock, and that's really what it was before all this bad news set itself on Boeing. And then down here at the bottom, we're anticipating some real hurt and pressure. Now, whether or not this carries over into the stock is yet to be seen. In my experience, I really find that stocks will recess quickly and then answer questions later. And so whether or not there's more downside risk to Boeing at this time is really yet to be seen. I think anybody entering into Boeing at this particular price point, my entry was 122.30, okay? So from a technical perspective, the entry was good. It's just that I'm absolutely prepared to take the stock into further deep water if that's what it takes. If the stock reflects the dark times in really making this bad news come out, and making sure that they're given ample time to make sure that these orders return, the 737 returns to its ordering status, and that commercial airline business resumes, which is the bulk of their business at 40%. If they're going to need more time, then this is going to play out the way this is projected to play out over the next 5 years. But 5 years here is where we're looking to actually maybe potentially break even and start to get into a profitable category. Again, whether or not this is going to be reflected in the stock, I think a lot of people are looking at the stock now and basing their decisions based on this 1 year projected. And that's fair enough, but you can't always do that when you're looking to take a move in Boeing. I think if you're looking to get substantiation in the name enough to justify investing in the name, I think it may be potentially too late for you at that particular time. So you want to kind of be careful on that in making your decisions. And up here, you can just kind of roll over this. Obviously, the dividends are in NA, paid since 1942. Their dividend history really isn't that great, to be honest with you. Only 8 years of consecutive. So they were actually knocking on the door to becoming just an achiever before all this debacle hit them. So they'll obviously fall out of that status, but they've got bigger problems to deal with. I will focus on this last metric here, which is an important decision component in investing in Boeing now, is that their revenues international and specifically emerging markets is key. And their carrier business is not one to be not focused in right now, and as well as their government contracts. Although the commercial business has fallen to zero, Boeing is still working in other segments of their business. And I think it's fair to say that while the commercial business has fallen to zero, I really think it's worth not underestimating the impact of the other businesses, the carrier business and the government business, as well as maybe picking up and supplementing some of that commercial business with some international markets going around the world, where domestically planes were kind of at a capacity and new orders were in with Boeing. It will be interesting to know how those emerging markets maybe potentially help Boeing's bottom line going forward, because there's going to be a demand on these jets, guys. This is part of a duopoly in the world, and this is one of two companies that provide these jets, Airbus being the other, and Boeing. So you want to talk about a wide moat in a company. There's not a lot of options. This is one of two options for commercial customers seeking aircraft to go to, and Boeing is going to figure this out. I have no doubt about it. With the amount of support that they've been able to raise in debt capital to help them through this hard time, I really think the solution here for Boeing is going to be time. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this metric. I'm going to jump into the next one. All right, this is the Trappist tool, and I applied this to Boeing here just to kind of show you guys what I'm talking about with the breakdown of the businesses in Boeing. Right now, just here to the left, this is the market value currently in Boeing. We're up certainly a little bit over $1,000, so we've got a little cushion on our position. Entry at 122.30. The Trappist price, basically, Trappist is the name of the website. So they basically take into consideration all of these different arms of Boeing's business, and they'll justify a price. Now, this price is based on current makeup of the company. So this actually reflects real time what the inherent value of Boeing is, and taking into consideration the fact that we've wiped out this entire 40% of the commercial airlines business. But I want people to really understand these two other legs of their business. And I won't even talk about Boeing Capital Corporation. What I will talk about is
defensive space and aerospace. This is their government contracts, guys. This is a quarter of their business. So not to be scoffed at all. Looking at these percentages may not hit home, but for global services, man, this is just about as close to their commercial aerospace business. And right now, this global services right now is the fabric that's holding things together, okay? This is what is transporting our equipment back and forth. This is what is flying all of our health provider and health equipment around the world right now, global services. Again, some of those intangibles that Boeing brings to the table with regard to it's too big to fail. I just think that they are too important to fail. And when we click over here to the revenue aspect, it's just another way of looking at the company and how they were progressing. This was 2018. I talked about that, and this is really where the beginning of the end started in 2019. And then here in the prospects for 2020 are just terrible when we're looking at the revenues. And but look at this, where the projections go from 2020. So this is going to be their dark year in 2020, no doubt about it. But we're looking at revenue step up. This is a pretty solid business as it steps up, you know, anticipated to kind of level off over time, but kind of a consistent player in the global services. This is intriguing here with defense. This is their government contracts, also steady. I wouldn't call this any major appreciation, but their real ability to scale their commercial airlines business here as they come out of this. This is really the bet, is that Boeing is going to figure this out, and they are going to be able to realize these projections going forward. When we kick over here to free cash flow, this is really where it kicks in here and really is scathing. Obviously, this in the orange is the 40% of their business, and making this little bit of money here in global services is going to just help them limp along. Obviously, Boeing needed some help with some debt payments here in excess of $25 billion and $17 billion respectively here. But look at the projections here as we move into 2021, and we return to some level of normalcy in Boeing, and start to realize some of those pre-2018 levels or pre-2019 levels. 2018 was probably a comparable year to what Boeing would expect in a normal year for their businesses. But I think the real takeaway from these is to understand that Boeing is just not a one-dimensional business. And the businesses that they are involved with, they are critical in each of those businesses. And Airbus is experiencing some of the same problems in the commercial aerospace business, certainly. But to call Boeing a one-dimensional company, or not to understand that these other segments of the business are critical to the world trade and to moving product from one place to another, Boeing plays a critical role in that service. And these businesses will remain consistent over time as they look to come out of 2020 and move into 2021. So it'll be a lot of fun to see how this evolves over time. Obviously, I don't think it can get any worse than it can now. We need to have some good news. We need to have the 737 come back online. The CEO, Mr. Calhoun, was interviewed this weekend, and he reflected the exact same comments, guys. So I hope you enjoy these metrics and looking at Boeing a little bit deeper and understanding maybe why I took the position in it.
All right, guys, so we've come out of the metrics scene within my account. I really appreciate it. Either it's a dumb move or a very smart move. In investing, the bottom line is dollars, and you guys really need to understand the context surrounding why I entered into this in all actuality. All right, I'm just playing a little fun and having some happy Mother's Day wishes to everybody out there on behalf of the channel. This is a very serious trade for me, a very serious investment. It's made some really, really good house money for me here. And I really feel like the long-term perspectives are going to pay off big. It's going to require an extreme amount of patience. But if I'm able to deploy these patience over the long term, I really think Boeing is going to be one of those stocks that I look back on, and I'm glad that I took the position that I did. Guys, thank you so much for tuning into the video. You want to hit the subscribe button. Leave your comments at the bottom of this video. If you think I've made a dumb move, certainly you want to add those comments, but you want to tell me why. Certainly I've made a bad investment into this Dow component. You want to share this message with anybody out there that you know may be interested in what I'm doing with my investing activity at this current juncture. And guys, you want to finally just share the message with anybody out there that you know that's wanting to get interested in the stock market and some of the money-making strategies that I deploy in my own personal investment portfolio. Very interesting to a lot of investors to sit back and understand how our fellow investors are seeking exposure to the stock market. Guys, thank you so much for tuning into this video, and good luck in your investment future.